Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to the Danny Phantom Q&A. As always, if I did not answer someone's question, that usually means it was marked as spam or didn't show up on the list. And also, if you hear the fan going, that's because it gets very fucking hot in my room, and this is going to be a big Q&A. Oh, about nearly 60 people, little over 60 people asked questions for this Q&A, so this is a big fucking Q&A, guys. This is a great big Q&A. Yeah, so, yeah, this is gonna be a big one, so, yeah. So, having said all that, let's jump right into the Q&A, starting with Ian Green, who asks, what would happen if Danny met, Chichiro from Spirited Away? He'd be like, oh, so cute. How would you do a Danny Phantom GMK crossover? Godzilla, Mothra, all monsters, all out attack. Okay. I don't know, honestly. I know it's supposed to be a whole spiritual thing, but I don't know how I would do that, honestly. Third question. Who would win? Danny Phantom villains or Ghost Rider villains? I'd have to go with Ghost Rider villains, even though I think characters like Vlad and the Ghost King and even Dan Phantom are major powerhouses. Anyway. So thinking of those questions, Ian Green, moving on now to Darth Venom, who asks, do you think Vlad the Masters could have survived in space, or is he gone for good? I like to think that he is out in space and now part of the Sinestro Corps. That's my headcanon. Second question. Which of Danny's enemies could be members of the Sinister Six? I'd like to think Ember, Technus, and Skulker would make great Sinister Six members. How would you do a Danny Phantom Gravity Falls crossover? Well, it's kind of hinted at that Danny Phantom is in the Northwest region, and same as Gravity Falls, so I would have it that maybe Dipper's looking into the Danny Phantom thing, and maybe have it that this is Danny's early years, so, I don't know, maybe he's looking into it, I don't know. Something like that. Thank you for those questions. Darth Venom, moving on now to Billy McCary, who asked, what would happen if Danny and Danny Phantom teamed up to battle these villains? Gentleman Ghost, Mephisto, Blackheart, Jasper, you mean Hawkmoth. Hawkmoth. Lord Hater, and Pumpkinhead. They'd probably get their ass kicked collectively. Alright. Would you like to see an open-world Danny Phantom video game? Yeah, I really think that'd be cool. Third question. Danny Phantom made a crossover with Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Child's Play, Ghost Rider, Werewolf by Night, Blade, Constantine, Justice League Dark, the main six, Autobots, Darkwing Duck, Pinhead, and Gargoyles. That'd be one hell of a crossover, and I have no idea how I would play that out. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Billy. Moving on now to Lydia, who asks, if you could do a continuation film of the series, what would be the plot? Maybe have it that Danny, now that he's a big hero of the world, wants to help protect the world, and he creates like a Phantom Corps. Like, he gathers all of his ghost allies and forms like this Phantom Coalition, or something like that, to help protect the world, or to something to that degree. Alright, what would happen if Danny met these heroes? Spider-Man, Ladybug, Randy Cunningham, Penn-Zero, and Robin. I think he would fangasm over hanging out with Spider-Man. Randy and Penn would be like new BFFs for him, and as well as Robin. What would happen if Danny had to run in with the Ghostbusters? Oh, that'd be great, because I've seen a lot of that with Danny being captured by the Ghostbusters, and Egon trying to, like, scan him. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Lydia. Moving on now to Media Detective, who asks, did you get a sense of Superman in this show, seeing as how it's really easy to figure out who he is, and the only change is his hair? I got more of a Spider-Man sense, really, but yeah, someone should have been like Danny Fenton, Danny Phantom. Yeah, it's kind of like the Ladybug Cat Noir thing, isn't it? Who is the greatest hunter, Kraven or Skulker? I'd have to give it to Kraven, because Skulker, while he is a great ghost hunter, he hasn't been able to catch Danny, his main target. Whereas Kraven shot him, buried him alive, pretended to be Spider-Man, and then, you know, we all know how Last Hunt went. Did you ever find that weird, did you ever find it weird that Danny's nemesis Vlad thinks his mom is hot? So, your point? That woman is fine with a capital F. So, yeah, no problem here. Anyway, so, moving on now to Makuro Kudo, or Kirayumi. I don't know how to pronounce the first one, so I'm just going to say Kirayumi. First question is If there was a special involving demons from hell entering Amity Park and angels from heaven, how would the demons be real threat to Danny? Would they be more powerful? Yeah, they'd probably be more powerful because they're demons. So that'd be scary as shit. Like, it'd probably be like something like, what's the name of that? The one where you play as the Horseman of War. I can't remember the name of that game. Darksider. Darksider, right? Something like that. Same question. If a Batman Danny Phantom crossover happened, would the team up be Scarecrow and the Fright Knight? Oh, that would be cool. I think it would work if something along the lines of like maybe Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn teamed up with Ember, or maybe some other female ghost villain in in Danny's Rogues Gallery. Something to that degree, possibly something of that degree happening. Third question. What is your theory on the asteroid from the Phantom Planet movie, and why is it green and has a ghost protection on it? I have no idea where that thing came from, and why is it in space? I never understood that asteroid. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Kira Yumi. Moving on now to Cash Smith, who asks, Danny teams up with Jake Long and Ben 10. Is there ever the slightest chance of actually happening, or will it go the way of, Thinglonger? I don't know what that is. I don't think it'll actually happen, but I think that would be a cool Trinity team-up. Just throw in Randy and we got a whole thing. Mars Attacks Danny Phantom. It'd probably go the way of the real ghost of the Ghostbusters Mars Attacks crossover in the Mars Attacks IDW event, where the Martians get ghost powers. Third question. Vlad tries to take over Eternia and usurp Skeletor's the Dark Lord. How would their showdown go? You vagina cuntfuck! You have taken my throne from He-Man! Fuck you, I gotta... Curse you, Vlad Plasmius! Anyway, there you go. So, thank you for those questions, Cash Smith. Moving on now to... moving on now to Sean Fulldark, who asks, Tucker joined Stark Industries. Do you think he would go with a war machine or make his own armor from scratch? I don't think he would want to make an armor at all and just be on the payroll for Tony. Ultimate Dr. Octopus steals a sample of Danny's DNA and makes a ghost alien costume. What colors would one of be... what colors and would one of Danny's friends you think would actually get a costume? I think, you mean like a Phantom Symbiote thing? I don't know, probably Sam or Jazz, one of the two. Which Ghost Rider do you think would be going up against Danny? I would say probably Danny Ketch. That one was a little more violent. Well, that one had restraint, so maybe Robbie Reyes is Ghost Rider now that I think about it. Alright. Thank you for those questions, Sean Full Dark. Moving on now to Ron Mystica1, who asks, what is your opinion on Butch Hartman's 10 years later design on Danny, Sam, and Tucker? I really like them, and it's very clear from when he's doing this and talking about all the art stuff, he clearly wants to go back to this show, because I'm pretty sure he's fucking sick of Fairly Odd Parents, and I don't blame him. Yeah, you see him do all these doodles all the time of Danny Phantom, and it's very clear he doesn't want to do this anymore, do Fairly Odd Parents anymore. Alright, so thank you for that question, Ron Mystica. Moving on now to Carlotta Studios, who asks, Danny Phantom and his gang meet Ladybug and Cat Noir. What would these two groups think of each other, and how will Danny, Sam, and Tucker react to the utter frustration of the Catbug love square? I think they would be like, fucking really? Fucking really? It would also be great to see, like, Danny hang out with some, like, oh, this is great! Your costumes are really weird, like, that is way too much leather. Like, he would be talking to Cat Noir, and he'd be like, dude, that is too much leather. Oh yeah, spandex boy? Anyway. So, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, second question. Danny and his friends form a Sky Knight squadron. What would they call themselves? And what would their roles in the squadron be? And what would be the name of their Terra? Maybe Terra Spectra? Or Terra Phantasm? Or, yeah, that would actually be the squad team. The Terra Spectre would be the name, and the Phantasms would be the squadron's name. Danny would be, of course, the leader, Tucker the crystal expert, Sam the tactician, Jazz the, I guess, the weapons expert, something like that. Anyway, and what weapons would they have? I don't know about terms of weapons. Maybe like crystal-based weapons of the, Fenton weapons. Alright, I know that Vlad Plasmius has appeared several times in the No Name Club, but will Danny ever make an appearance? Yes, he will. Eventually, when we get back to that. Trust me, he will. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Carlotta Studios. Moving on now to Travis Rendon, who asks, besides Sam, what other girls in the Danny Phantom universe would you want, or do you think would hook up with? Yeah, like you, I'd say Ember and Danny, that's a cute one. I even kind of liked Ember and Valerie. I mean, not Ember and Valerie, excuse me. Danny and Valerie. Yeah, Danny and Valerie was pretty cute. Yeah, I really like that, so... Anyway, second question. What other two Ghost characters would you have wanted to be permanent allies, characters of Danny, Sam, and Tucker? You said, yeah, like you, I would suggest Wolf and the Ghost Dog. Yeah, those two. That'd be great. Like, have the Ghost Dog as, I think he named it Cujo at one point. Yeah, like, have the little Ghost Dog as his pet dog and make it like Ace from Batman Beyond. Yeah. Yeah, have him like Ace from Batman Beyond. That'd be great. Or Wolf showing up or hanging around. Something like that. Anyway. Third question. If the other monsters beside Ghost exist in the world of Danny Phantom, and the world-threatening crisis was about to happen, and Danny needs to put together a team of 7, including himself, of other monsters, what would they choose, and what would there be the roles? Probably Wolfman, Mummy, Vampire, Creature from the Black Lagoon type creature, Frankenstein type monster, Invisible Man or Invisible Girl, and yeah, that's about as much as I could think of. I don't know about roles, honestly, but there you go. There's your Monstrous 7 team. Anyway, so... moving right along. Okay, so next set of questions come from King Nazaru, who asks, how would Danny try to persuade Meridia, hope I'm saying that name right, from Elder Scrolls? Don't know who that is, because I'm not the biggest Elder Scrolls guy. So I don't know what to say about that. Second question, how well would Danny fare against if he took part in the student exchange program between Casper High and Yokai Academy from Rosario Vampire? I think he'd fit right in. I think most of the monsters would also try to jump his bones. Figuratively and literally. Third question. What would Danny and his team, including Jazz, react if they had to team up with Chloe and Lucifer from the Lucifer TV show? They'd have to team up with the frickin' devil, so... I don't know how they would take that, honestly. So... thank you for those questions. King Nazaru. Moving on now to Omnitron12345, who asks, if Danny gets the attention of Hawkmoth and ends up dealing with akumatized civilians and friends, what happens? Danny's going to need to find a way to de-evilize people, and fast. Second question, if Danny Phantom existed in any superhero universe, not just comic book universe, where would you see him fitting in the most? I think, honestly, it would be cool to see him fit in the former Ultimate Marvel universe. Him hanging out with, Miles and all that, something to that degree. Or even... yeah, probably Marvel or Ultimate Marvel. Alright. If Danny Phantom existed... oh wait, that was the second question. Third question. Technus versus Metaton from Undertale. Who wins? I gotta give it to Technus because, yeah, I would probably possess Metaton and force the spirit out of him, and then, boom, it wouldn't turn out well for anyone. Anyway. Thank you for those questions, Omnitron. Moving on now to Cody Bradish, who asks, Danny Phantom is following someone who stole an item from an antique store. He arrives too late to discover that the person was possessed from the stolen item was the Lament configuration, and which he has already unlocked, releasing the Cenobites. How fucked up is everything, and would Danny survive the greatest challenge ever? Probably not. They will tear his soul apart. Second question. Danny Phantom stumbles upon a mystery that Mystery Inc. was already hot on the trail. Would that make for a cool crossover? Yeah. I already kind of answered this question, so I won't really go further into it. Third question. Do you think that if the show ended off right, do you think there was still, or more could have been done, or even needed to be done? Yeah, I still want to know that whole deal between the Fright Night and, between Vlad and the Fright Knight. That never went fucking anywhere, and a few other things would have liked that all taken care of. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Cody. Moving on now to Alexander Anayez, who asks. Alexander Anayez asks, if a kaiju from the Godzilla franchise decided to visit Amity Park, which one would it be and why? I'd have to go with, I guess, Gabara, because Gabara is always like especially how Matt Frank wanted to do Gabara. Matt Frank wanted to make a Gabara like a being of like pure nightmare fuel. So maybe Nocturne takes control of Gabara or something like that. I don't know. Second, Danny ends up meeting Star and Marco dimension hopping in the Ghost Realm. What happens? I'm pretty sure Danny would want to get them out of the Ghost Realm because they don't know what they're doing. If we ever get a comic book series about Danny Phantom, what stories would you want to see, and what kind of new villains would Danny face now that his identity has been revealed? I'd like to see him, again, a whole Ghost Corps kind of thing, because he's just one man in his universe. He needs a lot of help. So I would say, yeah, he gets all of his friends together, maybe some enemies he can try to reform to form like a new ghost group, help between ghost-human relations. I don't know about villains, though. But anyway, thank you for those questions, Alex. Moving on now to Andrew Varney, who asks, Danny Phantom, Milo's Murphy's Law. How might that go? I think it would be that Milo's class is Milo's sent on a project to study someone famous, and he decides to do a report on Danny Phantom. Unfortunately, it's Milo, and he's now in the Fenton Works office, so only bad can come of this. Anyway, so there you go. Danny, Sam, and Tucker end up in Halloween Town. How do they react to meeting the residents? Are we talking about Halloween Town from the movie Halloween Town, or are we talking about Nightmare Before Christmas Halloween Town? I'm just going to go for sake of argument, Nightmare Before Christmas Halloween Town. So, yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun of seeing Danny and Jack hang out. I think Jack would be like, oh, marvelous! You must use that ghost whale of yours sometimes. It's simply spectacular. Anyway, third question. Danny meets the following ghost creatures: the High Five Goats, Napsa Block, Marceline, the Crystal Gems, Phantom of the Opera, Gentleman Ghost from DC. How does he react? I'm freaked out. He would be like, I'm freaked out. Alright. Moving on. So thank you for those questions, Andrew. Moving on now to Joel Davis, who asks, what would you pitch a Batman Beyond concept for Danny Phantom, basically Danny Phantom in the far future, dealing with a successor? I think it would be that maybe his son is trying to take on the family legacy, and Danny's just getting too old for it. So yeah, maybe, if not his son, maybe his grandson, dealing with that. Maybe, yeah, like his grandson, who is like, he still has the Phantom DNA inside of him due to the line being passed down to him, but he's not exactly like a full ghost. He's more like quarter ghost, full human, and he's trying to unlock that Phantom side of him. Second question. What would happen if Danny Phantom faced the Ghostbusters? I already answered this question. Third question. Despite the bad track record of these sorts of things, could a live-action Danny Phantom work if done properly? And if so, who would you cast and why? Well, I suck at casting, and I haven't really put a lot of faith in live-action stuff, so sadly, no. But thank you for those questions, Joel Davis. Moving on now to Xavier Ford, who asks, Danny gets into a fight with Frieden Nad, the Sith Lord. What happens? Frieden Nad kicks his ass. That's what happens. Second question. What happens that the Ghostbusters, all of them, go up against Danny? Do they win? I already answered this Ghostbusters question, but yeah, they probably win. Thank you for this question, Xavier Ford. Moving on now to Jason Voorhees, 2011, who asks, how would you write a Danny Phantom Transformers crossover, and which Autobots would you see interacting with Danny, Sam, and Tucker? I would probably have it that maybe Technus is maybe Technus is taking control of several Autobots and a majority of the Decepticons. Like, he infiltrated the Nemesis, and now he's mind controlled the Decepticons, and he's passed on like this disease, like this he's passed himself on, and now he's possessed most of the Autobots, and now they have to find Danny, because they don't know how to deal with a ghost. As for Autobot companions, Tucker would be with Wheeljack. Yeah, Tucker and Wheeljack. Sam would be with, maybe Ironhide, possibly, and Danny with Optimus. Alright. Who are some of your most underrated Danny Phantom villains in your opinion? I think, very underrated would be Technus. Technus is very underrated. It's a guy who can control literally all of technology and turn himself into a satellite. I would also say Walker. Walker was incredibly powerful, and was the warden of the Ghost Zone. He was terrifying, but no one gives him a lot of thought or love. So definitely Walker, probably the most. Third, if you could have had Robert Englund and Doug Bradley guest star in the show as villains, who would you incorporate them as? I heard a rumor, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently Robert Englund was, they wanted to get Robert Englund to play Nocturne, but he was busy with something else, or didn't want the role, I don't know. But yeah, Robert Englund, I don't know if that's true or not, but I would have that maybe Robert Englund is like an occultist, like he's some kind of, I would actually have him as like a hero character. Yeah, I know, Robert Englund, best known for villains being a hero, but I would make him like he's an occultist, kind of like I wouldn't say like Doctor Strange or whatever, more like John Constantine, like a very old John Constantine type character, and he's kind of leery towards Danny Phantom, but at the same time he doesn't think he's a threat, but he might become one. As for Doug Bradley, I would make him like some kind of demon god or something. I don't know. So there you go. Thank you for those questions, Jason Voorhees. Moving on now to Jalen, who asks, what would Danny think of Spawn? He would be terrified of Spawn. That's what would happen. He would be utterly terrified of Spawn. If Danny was a part of any superhero team, would it be like the Teen Titans from the show, or would they be freelance like Young Justice and take missions above them? I think he would be like more like he would be on a definite team. He would be on a definite team, and he would want to be there constantly. And I don't know if he would be leader. He does have leader material inside of him, but I don't know if he would want that right off the bat. Alright. Oh, and to follow up, what would his team consist of? Jenny, Kim, Randy, Jake. There you go. There's your team. And maybe she's out to throw some stuff, to throw you guys off. I don't use she's out that often. Anyway, thank you for those questions. Thank you for those questions, Jalen. Moving on now to Shockwave Spider, who asks, have you ever thought of Danny Phantom being the spiritual successor of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in Ghostbusters? I guess. I don't know exactly, but sure, whatever. Second question, have you watched Danny Phantom... Oh yeah, I did watch that, I already answered that. How would Danny handle fighting other villains and other supernatural beings like ghosts, like vampires, for example? I think it would have been cool to introduce, like, more... different supernatural beings into the show, like having Danny have to fight his way, other than ghosts and humans, it's opponents who have other sets of rules. He can't just throw them in the ghost zone. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Shockwave Spider. Moving on now to Max Gentleman 1, who asks, Dominator decides to set her sights on Earth. How good of a chance does Danny have against defeating her? He got pretty powerful, so maybe he's got a chance. Alright, second question. What would the following character designs be if the ghosts, and their ghost powers be? Dominator, Toffee, Pen, Sashi, Ladybug, and Cat Noir. I would say for Toffee's design, it would probably be something like Dan Phantom's, but the colors would be inverted. For Dominator, she would have, like, a more, like, spectral, more raggedy look. Pen and Sashi would make herself look like a samurai ghost, and Pen would probably try to design his costume after Danny. Ladybug, I don't know. Ladybug and Cat Noir, I'm not so sure. Third question. Danny and the gang decide to make a much-needed vacation to Beach City. What happens? And what would be the main villain, and what does Tucker try hitting on Garnet? And he'd probably get punched half across Beach City, but anyway. What are the main villains? Not maybe Jasper and Skulker? I don't know. Anyway. So, thank you for those questions, Max Gentleman. Moving on now to Wolfman the Impaler, who asks, Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, Danny Phantom crossover. What would you do, and how would this deal with the supernatural? I don't know how exactly I would bring all three together. Yeah, I really don't know how I would bring all three teams together, but it'd be awesome to see. Second question, do you think the series ended on a good note or bad one? I think everything got wrapped up way too quickly, and even Butch Hartman says that he wasn't proud of that. Anyway, how would you do a Danny Phantom video game? Probably something like... It'd be like Spider-Man 2, where you could free roam Amity Park and do little side missions. Something like that. Anyway, thank you for those questions. Moving on now to Wolfman the Impaler, who asks, Danny becomes the Herald of Galactus. What would he look like? Probably silver and green, and probably call himself Spectre or something like that, or Phantasm. Something to that degree. The Ghostbusters come to Amity Park. How much will fanboy Jack Fenton will act like? Probably like a big one, especially towards Egon. Third question. Danny is recruited into the BPRD. What happens? Yeah, he would definitely be an agent of the BPRD. I think he would make an awesome agent of the BPRD. But thank you for those questions, Wolfman. Moving on now to OverNerd03, who asks, given how much influence from Marvel Comics Butch got from Danny, do you think Marvel offered to help revive... No, they wouldn't help, because that's not one of their properties. That's not one of Disney's properties. So they wouldn't even give two fucks. They didn't do that with Max Steel. They didn't do that with Jake Long. Why not? Why now, right? Second question. If Danny, 10 years later, after Art happened as a series, would you like to think Danny is like now? Probably a more confident hero and a more, he's now got this all in the bag, more or less. Like, he's know what he's doing, and now he's kind of like a Superman type person. 3. Do you want Danny with Nye to return as a supporting character and partner to Danny? Yeah, definitely. Absolutely, I would love that. Alright, moving on now to the Average Kid, who asks, here's a battle I'm surprised no one has asked anywhere before. Danny Phantom and Ghost Godzilla. Probably because Ghost Godzilla would whip his ass. Second question. Danny finds something is affecting his world in the ghost world. He goes into the ghost zone where he encounters a dimensional gate leading to Otherworld and finds that is Janemba from DBZ Fusion. Do you think he can hang in there and win? No, Janemba would just kick his ass, sadly. Who, in your opinion, is the most intimidating Danny Phantom villain? Vlad has always had that level of intimidation, and so has Walker. So those two. And Dan Phantom. Thank you for those questions of Average Kid. Moving on now to Ronimus Prime, who asks, what are your thoughts on the Danny Phantom villain Fright Night? I really like him. I thought he was pretty cool, and Michael Dorn can do no wrong. Second question. How would you write it? I already answered this one. The Danny Phantom Gravity Falls crossover. And third question. How would you write a Moon Knight Danny Phantom crossover? Perhaps have it that someone has broken into a museum and stolen like an item of Khonshu, and Moon Knight is alerted to this, and he and Danny team up to find who did it. Something like that. Alright. Moving on now to King Chimera, who asks, do you think other supernatural shit like witchcraft, magic, physical, spiritual, demons, yada yada yada, would exist in Danny's world? Yeah. Yeah, like I said, that'd probably be cool, and it probably would. And I'm pretty sure Butch would have done that already, had he had the chance. Alright, what do you think of this idea I once had where Vlad was hit by the Phantom Meteor, he was found and became the Herald of Galactus, and gains the power added to his ghost powers? Yeah, I really like that. I've always had the headcanon that he became a member of the Sinestro Corps, but yeah, that works too, that he's the new Herald of Galactus. That works too. Alright, thank you for those questions, King Chimera. Moving on now to Common X, who asks, Danny versus Book, Universal Hammer, or Van Helsing Dracula, which one can he beat? I would say that all of the Draculas could probably beat him in one way or another. Second question. Danny meets the Ghoul School. Oof. I think Fanty would... I've always had it in my head that Fanty has had like a fangirl crush on Danny Phantom. So if they ever met, Fanty would be like, oh, I haven't had... No. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, but she would fangirl so hard. To the point where she'd be like, take me. What? Nothing. Third question. What do you think would happen post-Phantom Planet Danny? I'd like to think that she went to the Fentons and they decided to raise her as one of their own. At least that's what I've kind of always thought. Anyway. So, thank you for those questions, Common X. Moving on now to Andre Partridge, who asks, what will happen if Danny and Sam met up with the following characters? Star and Marco, Dipper and Mabel, Steven and Connie, and Wander and Sylvia. I think Sam would want to gag at the sight of most of them of how happy they are. But Danny would like to hang out and maybe form like a team with them. Alright. What do you think of what would Danny Phantom think of Jake Long and Randy Cunningham's lives if they all suddenly switch places with each other for a day? I think he would be like, how do people deal with this? Drag It Up is not like Going Ghost. It's not even that cool. Who was your favorite female character out of the series and why? I kind of dug Ember. I don't know. I thought she had a cool design to her. Sam's also really cool. Yeah. Anyway. So, moving on. Thank you for those questions, Andre. So, next up we have, how would you write a Danny Phantom team-up story where Danny gets thrown into a Crimson Chin comic book and has to team up with him in order to fight a muscle-bound, musculoid spectator? Looks similar to Lobo from DC Comics. I don't know how I would write that, honestly. I don't even know what that would look like. But yeah, Danny would just be like, oh god, I'm stuck in a Crimson Chin comic, aren't I? Second question. What do you think the Golden Age counterpart of Danny Phantom would look like and if he were to actually exist? I kind of had this image that like there was pulp heroes more like the Shadow or, the Green Hornet existing before Danny's time. Like the Terror or something like that. How would you create a visual novel based on Danny Phantom license? I don't even know how I would do that, honestly, sadly. Alright. Danny, Sam, and Tucker meet Ladybug. I already answered this one. Danny ends up meeting Freddy, both Nightmare and Fozbear. What does he do? I think he would be like, I need to stop eating pizza at like 3 in the morning. Alright. And Danny, finally, Danny and EQG World has to team up with the girls in order to fight a new Sirens and their lead singer, Ember McLean. Epic or no? Yes, very epic. Very indeed epic, very much so. Alright. So, moving right on, thank you for those questions. One of none? Yeah, it was one of none. Did I keep saying Jesse Sutrez? I'm sorry. Yeah, but one of none. One of none. Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you for those questions. One of none. Moving on now to Dodge the Bounty Hunter, who asks, would you have liked to seen some darker themed ghost in the show, or traditional ghost based off of different world culture? Yeah, I think that would have been cool. Yeah, I think that would have been cool. Like maybe an elemental or something like that. Something to that degree. That would have been cool. Would you have liked to see more human villains? Yeah, that'd have been fun. Like, have them more like, villains who can actually use magic. Something to that degree. That'd have been fun. Like, seeing an occultist or something like that, in here, like, using magic to fight Danny. When Danny dies, do you think he would just become a ghost form, or be a ghost of his normal self? I don't know, really, because that's a really tricky one. It's like, what would happen if Danny dies? That has always been a question that has plagued my mind. Anyway. So, thank you for those questions. Moving on now to your friendly neighborhood Spidey, who asks, how would you feel if Danny Phantom movie was to be made? As long as it's animated and got to close some chapters on what happened with Vlad and Fright Night and everything else. Second question, if so, what villains would you like to see made Vlad? I would say Vlad. And if you got to write a crossover with any main superhero from Marvel and DC, what would you have Danny team up with? Spider-Man. Spider-Man, most definitely. So moving on now to Andrew Schaefer, who asks, Danny Phantom is asked to join the Teen Titans by the founding members. How awesome on a scale of 1 to 10 is that? It's a 25 on the awesome scale. Second question, Dark Danny versus Ghost Rider. Who wins? I think if it's John Blaze or Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, it might go to him, but it'd definitely leave a lot of devastation. Third question, have you heard of the fanfiction series Danny Phantom Facing the Future? And if so, what? I've heard of it, but I've never read it. Need to. But thank you for those questions, Andrew. Moving on now to Matthew Blaisdell, hope I'm saying that name right, who asks, Danny Phantom meets the Ghost Adventures crew. What happens? I think he would be like, dude, seriously, come on. How awesome would it be if Danny Phantom was an anime series? That'd have been a lot of fun, honestly. I'd like to see how that would be played out. Danny's reaction to these monster creatures: Demons from Doom, the Jersey Devil, and Jeff the Killer. Well, I've never been the biggest creepypasta fan, so I don't know what to say about that one. Sorry about that. Anyway, to go back to your question, Matthew, I would have to say that I think the cool one would be the Jersey Devil. I don't know about much. I don't think he would handle the Demons from Doom very well, but I think the Jersey Devil one would be a lot of fun. So, thank you for those questions, Matthew. Moving on now to Cinder222, excuse me, who asks, what do you think? Already answered that one. Could you see actual vampires and werewolves fitting into Danny Phantom universe? Yeah, I could. I think that would have been a lot of cool. That would have been a lot of fun. Do you think Death, aka the Grim Reaper, fit into Danny Phantom? What would the story be? Probably that half ghosts are kind of like walking that line between life and death, and Danny and Vlad are, they're kind of stuck in this limbo place, and the Grim Reaper considers them like, you have no place, you're like an anomaly. So, thank you for those questions, Cinder. Moving on now to George Poldillo, who asks, I was wondering if you could help me with a fan art idea. Cartoon hero with comic book hero for Danny, and what would be better, Deadman from DC or Hellboy? I'd say Deadman. Probably Deadman. I think, the whole ghost teaming up thing, that would be a lot of fun. Digimon partners for Tucker. Andromon, any ideas for Danny and Sam? You have Tucker for Andromon. Probably, what's the little ghost Digimon? The ones that look all spooky, they look like little Pac-Man ghosts. Maybe that one for Danny. And for Sam, Demi Devamon. There you go. Thank you for those questions, George. Moving on now to RoboKaiju75, who asks, what would Danny Phantom think of Casper the Friendly Ghost? He'd be like, finally, a ghost that doesn't want to kick my ass. This is amazing. Anyway, so second question. How would you feel about it, Danny Phantom Luigi's Mansion? I would love to see Danny stuck in that vacuum. That'd be hilarious. If you could make your own Danny Phantom villain, what would it be like? What would their powers be? Like I said, I think it would be cool to have like an occultist-type villain. I think that would be a lot of fun to see done. I just rhymed again. Anyway, thank you for those questions, RoboKaiju. Moving on now to Christopher Rosa, who asks, what do you think of Samantha and Tucker Foley on the show? What do you think would make great main character development for these characters? That's a lot of stuff. I like Danny and Sam. I like Danny and Sam together. I don't really have any flaws with them, and I don't know how it would change them right off the bat. Alright, if Danny Phantom was either to restart or reboot, well, how would you add to the show to improve? Maybe have them out of high school? Something like that? Have them hang out with Dash and Paulina a little bit more? Do some more characters with those? I don't know. Alright. As for what I would do with Tucker, I guess you're basically asking like this long thing of what amounts to what I guess is Dash and about Dash and Paulina and how to work on them. I guess probably do some I don't know what I would do for character stuff for Paulina and Dash. Maybe having the Dash is having like the reason why he bullies is because he knows like I'm only going to be a football star and then a manager of some fast food restaurant. I can't deal with that, and now he's trying to have to fix himself, and maybe be one of a valued member of the Phantom team. I don't know. Thank you for those questions, Christopher Rosa. Moving on now to May's son, who asks, what would happen if Danny had met or had to fight Ermac? Ermac would probably beat him to death. Second question, what would happen if Danny met Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul or Shinichi from Parasite? I think he would honestly he'd be like, dude, why are you talking into your hand, and why do you look like you're wearing something from Hot Topic? He would just make fun of them and realize, oh god, they're terrifying. Alright, and Ghost Villain, I already answered that one. Thank you for those questions, May's son. Moving on now to Matt Kaiser08, who asks, if Danny was in Death Battle, which 10 opponents would you have him fight? 10? 10? I don't know about 10, but I can give you a few. Jake Long, Randy Cunningham, Ghost Rider, Jenny, XJ9. That's probably the major ones I'd like to see him in death battle against. So, there you go. Skulker versus Thailog, who wins? Well, Skulker is a ghost and has all that advanced technology, but he's so brash and arrogant, while Thailog does have an arrogance, but he's incredibly intelligent. So I think I might give it to Thailog. Alright, how long would Danny last on Skull Island? Definitely. Ghost powers kind of beat out dinosaurs. Yeah. So thank you for those questions, Matt Kaiser. Moving on now to Death Shadow 2492, who asks, if you could put Danny Phantom in any universe, in the DC universe or Marvel universe, what do you think would be a better fit and why? Like I said, Marvel would probably be the best fit, so he could, hang out with Spider-Man and, Miles and all of them. Alright, moving right along. Think about a question, Death Shadow. Moving on now to Brian Cam, who asks, what would it be like if Danny had these guys as rogues? Vigo and Agi from Paranorman. Probably, like, Aggie, if I remember right, Aggie wasn't exactly a villain. She was just kind of like a scared little girl, really. So I think Danny would try to get to the heart of it and try to help her. Second question. Ember was one of my favorite villains in the show. Could you come up with an origin for her? Also, I like her song, Remember? I like listening to it from time and time again. So I would, how I would do it is maybe she was trying to write songs one night, and what happened was that she was writing a song, and if she fell asleep while smoking, and fire happened. Fire bad. Alright. How in all of the Ghost Zone did Skulker and Ember become a couple? Do you have any theories? I don't think they're a couple, more like I'm convinced they're more fuck buddies than anything else. That's my thought on it. Alright. Thinking of those questions, Brian Cam. Moving on now to Irene VD Duel? Hope I'm saying that name right, who asks, can you see your non-comic Sinister Six fight your non-comic Teen Titans? Was Danny on that non-comic Teen Titans? Yeah, I could see that fight going down. Alright, would you rather voice a hero or villain for a reboot of Danny Phantom? Probably villain. I like villains more. If I could, it would be villains. Third question, can you see Danny getting along with Sans Papyrus? And also, can Vlad win a fight against Sans? Sans is pretty powerful, but so is Vlad, so I might call that one a draw. But I could see him hanging out with Sans and Papyrus. Definitely. Alright, sorry, I had to get some water. Moving on now to think of those questions. Moving on to Burnouter7, who asks, how would you incorporate Rasputin and Spring-Heeled Jack in Danny Phantom's Rogues Gallery? Rasputin, I would have it like it's his spirit, and he can basically use all the weapons that he was used to kill him, which was a lot. Even have it that he's like he's pretending to be a cultist or something like that, and a healer. Spring-Heeled Jack, like it's a guy who it's the spirit of Jack the Ripper, but he got mutated into like his ghost form's more monstrous, something like that. Second question, what power level is Danny Phantom compared to the Marvel superheroes? I don't know how to gauge that kind of power level. I suck at gauging power levels, so I don't really know what to tell you. All right, what do you think of the Danny Valerie pairing? I liked it. I thought, it was obviously Danny and Sam for the win, but this was a nice little reprieve. Could have been like Peter and Gwen Stacy, without the horrible ending. All right. Thank you for those questions, Burnouter. Moving on now to Sora versus Ka, who asks, what do you think of Danny Phantom Doctor Who crossover starring the Fourth Doctor? That would be really cool, and I would definitely incorporate Clockwork somehow. I don't know how, but I would incorporate him. Alright, what would be in the story in a Danny Phantom TMNT crossover? Perhaps having that Vlad is selling ghost-powered weapons to the Foot Clan, and they're using it, and they trace it to Vlad. I don't know how to incorporate Danny in there, but that's the loose I got. Alright, Danny meets the Universal Monsters. What happens? I think he and Larry Talbot would get along, and I think that would be a lot of fun to be had. The other ones, he'd get beaten senseless. Alright, thank you for those questions, Sora versus Ka. Moving on now to Pinky Pool Gamer Brony, who asks, what would happen if Danny crossed over with Fairly Odd Parents? I'm convinced they're in the same universe. I I think it would have been fun if like there's a rogue fairy or something. I'm not the biggest Fairly Odd Parents fan, so something to do with like maybe the anti-fairies. I don't know. What would happen if Danny and his friends met the Marvel superheroes? Danny would be, fangasming over Spider-Man. What more can I say? Or what would happen if Danny Phantom met SpongeBob? They kind of did in the new Nicktoons Unite game. Yeah, they met it several times in the Nicktoons Unite game. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Pinky Pool. Moving on now to ActionFan19, who asks, how awesome would it be if Danny and his friends teamed up with the Extreme Ghostbusters? Oh, that would be a lot of fun. That would just be tons and tons of fun. Seeing Sam and Kylie hang out, that'd been great. Second question. When you first saw Desiree, did you have a mixed feeling of her since she's stupid gorgeous but also dead? Yeah, I kinda did. Yeah, I kinda did. Alright, the Fenton Exosuit versus the Hulkbuster. How does that fight go? Well, the Hulkbuster was made to fight a Hulk, so might give it to the Hulkbuster, so yeah. Alright, thank you for those questions. Action Fan, moving on now to Linerman0245, who asks, how would Danny react if he had to fight the following ghosts and demons from horror fiction? Kayako Saki versus The Grudge, Samara Morgan, The Ring, Tate Landon from American Horror Story, Ghosts of Hotel Cortez, especially the Five Murderers, The Crooked Man from The Conjuring, The Wendigo, Crowley from Supernatural, Pennywise. I don't know most of those guys, but the Wendigo's a dark spirit that possesses people who eat people, so, yeah, it wouldn't be fun for anyone if Danny had to fight that, or became that, Kayako, he would just be freaked out. He's like, please don't meow, please don't meow, you meowed. Samara, he'd just throw her back in that well. Anyway, if Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki guest starred on the show, how would you incorporate them? Maybe have them as like a pair of young paranormal investigators who are a little too extreme and find ways to destroy ghosts. Like, they have good intentions, but they destroy ghosts, and not, like, send them back to the ghost zone, but destroys their body and makes them become nothing. Maybe something like that. Third question. What would happen if Ash Williams and Danny switched lives for a week, and what would the result of said week be? Probably not fun for Danny, but yeah, with dismemberment, blood, and guts, well, and Ash would be like, huh, this is a lot cleaner and a lot more easier than my job. I think I might keep it. So there you go, guys. That is all the questions. I want to thank everyone who sent in questions. This was a lot of fun. Yeah. Once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm sorry if I did not answer someone's question. That usually means YouTube marked it as spam, so I apologize again for that. But anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.